And thank you again, everyone. Thank you for being with us. I'd like to start this morning with a visual, and perhaps this visual will carry with you through our time together and then afterwards. And I'll kind of explain it as we go along. But I would like you to, if you can, if you're in a place where you can close your eyes. If not, just go kind of in your mind's eye and imagine yourself, however you imagine yourself. Imagine yourself as a shepherd of old, like when you hear the 23rd Psalm and it says, "The Lord shepherds me, I lack nothing." What does that shepherd look like? What do you as that shepherd look like? Now we know that the shepherds always had the little staff with the crook on top of it, the little piece of it that was bent over, And that was for a purpose. That had the crook in it for a reason. In ancient times in the Middle East, shepherds did not raise their lambs for meat. They did not raise them to eat them. They raised them for wool. And similar with the goats, they kept the goats for milk and for cheese. These animals were like their pets. They had names for them. They had favorites. And this, you go back to the scripture and it talks about, the good shepherd knows the sheep by their names. He calls their names. So imagine yourself surrounded by all of these playful, delightful creatures. And you're walking along, and they're walking with you. They're following closely behind you. They're following alongside of you. One or two are running forward. And the little ones are very curious, and they want to jump out, and they want to play, and they want to get away, and they want to go explore here, there, and everywhere. And that's what the crook is for. With the crook of the staff, you just gently reach over and grab that little one and pull it back to the flock. Occasionally one might fall into a ditch and can't get out, and you take the crook and you hoist it out. And as these little ones are trying to wander away from you, what you're doing is you are disciplining them, not punishing them. You are teaching them. You are teaching them how not to wander, how to stay close to you, the good shepherd. And the shepherd had a rod and a staff. Remember, it says, "Thy rod and thy staff comfort me." And the rod was for protection. See, the staff was to help the little ones come back when they wanted to wander. And the staff was for protection if a wild beast came and wanted to attack the flock. The shepherd would go out and beat it with a stick, chase it away. And the little ones came to recognize that the shepherd loved them and cared for them and protected them. And this is why it says, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil." As they were walking through narrow spaces, through rocks and shadows where predators could hide, the little ones would come even closer. They would try to get as close as they could to the shepherd because they knew that the shepherd was there to protect them. You are that shepherd. And the little creatures are your thoughts, your ideas, your opinions. And sometimes they want to wander everywhere. Sometimes we get stuck in a rut. But you are the shepherd. You are not the sheep. You are not the thoughts. You are not the ideas. You are not the opinions. You are what is real. And you have the ability, you have the responsibility, you have the accountability for bringing your consciousness, for bringing your thoughts back into an experience of what is real. Try to keep that image with you today, and if your mind wanders, which it will, just gently bring your consciousness back to where are you? Who are you? What are you doing? Right here, right now. Don't be thinking about this afternoon, what you're going to do. Don't be thinking about the last time you heard an idea like this. Be here, be now, be present. For it is in the presence, in the present, that we find what is real. I want to share with you, I want to start by sharing with you an odd dream. Well, I suppose it's not fair to say it was odd. It was a dream, you know. All dreams are by nature, I guess, a little bit odd when you're able to remember them and reflect back on them. But I was having this dream last night, and I was working in a business, and it was in a little kind of store in a strip mall, and the front of the building had that kind of brown or black metal framing, you know, and all the windows and the doors and everything were in this little black metal frame. I have no idea what the business was. I have no idea why I was working there, but nevertheless, I was working inside this building, and somehow the front door of the building became damaged, you know. And one of my coworkers, who it turns out his name was Dana, I have no idea why, was being blamed for damaging the door. And they were gonna make him pay for it, and he was in big trouble and all these kind of things. This was the drama that was going on in my dream. And the contractor came, a contractor came who had built the building, and the contractor came to repair the door. And I heard the contractor say, I knew this was going to happen. They never let me build it right in the first place. This isn't even really a door. I just took little bits and pieces of leftover parts and I kind of slapped something together that would function as a door, but it was never structurally sound in the first place. This was bound to happen. And I overheard that, and I'm trying to get to my friend who's on the phone, talking on the phone, and I'm trying to tell him, you gotta come, you gotta hear this, you gotta take pictures of this damage. You have to talk to this man, because this wasn't your fault. This was not. This was built poorly to start with. Whoever had the building built, they're responsible, and now they're trying to blame you and make you pay for it. And that's as much as a dream as I remember, you know. Now I'm sure if we take that to a psychiatrist, they might be able to tell us something more. But the whole thing's kind of silly, you know, if you step back and look at it. If I step back and look at it, so what was that all about, you know? Why would I even have such a dream? But when I was in that dream, when I was, whoever I is, whatever I is, when I was having that dream, it was real to me. It was completely real. Right? Logic and reason were not, are not in operation. I did not stop and say, well, you don't work at such a building. You're retired now. You don't get up and go to work every day. You don't know anybody named Dana. You know, you've never been in this particular building. And this whole idea that this door was somehow constructed improperly, that is all just a dream. It is just an illusion. See? It is a fabrication of consciousness. Why did consciousness fabricate it? I don't know. Why did I become aware of that particular dream and remember it? I don't know. And more importantly, who is the I? Who is the I that was engaged in the dream? And who is the I that remembered that dream? What is real? What is real? See, in the moment of sleep, in the moment that I was dreaming, that was real to me. That was completely real to me. You know, sometimes you have a dream that you're running or you're being chased or you're chasing someone and your heart beats faster and you start to sweat. And there's nothing going on physically. You're laying in bed, you're asleep. But yet your heart is racing, you know. If you wake up, your heart will be racing in your chest. It's real. It's real. And you are caught up in the illusion. You are caught up in that dream and you think it is real and you act as if it is real and your body reacts as if it was real. And sometimes you even remember it as if it was real. You know, maybe 10 years from now I'll be looking back and saying, you know, I used to work in this place and there was a guy named Dana and oh no, that was just a dream. That was just a dream. It gets hard from us when we look back in our memories to separate what we think actually happened and what we only imagined actually happened. If you've read any of the books on kind of self-image psychology, usually somewhere they say that we really can't tell the difference between what happened and what we imagine happened. And this is this experiment that is quoted over and over and over again about the basketball players and how they took the basketball players and they broke them up into a couple groups. And one group actually went out every day on the court and they practiced shooting baskets from the foul line, from the free throw line. Another group just sat and closed their eyes and imagined that they were shooting the baskets from the free throw line. And the third group did nothing. The third group just didn't do anything about basketball at all. They get them all back and retest them. And according to the popular theories or popular anecdotes about the experiment, the group that just imagined that they were throwing the basketballs had improved about the same as the group that actually got out and practiced throwing basketballs. And then the group that didn't do anything, well, they didn't improve at all. And the people who write these books are trying to write it to tell us that what occurs in your imagination is just as real to you as what really happens to you in your experience. Because what you experience, what you are actually experiencing is you are not experiencing the thing as it is. You are experiencing it as you think it is. You are experiencing it in the dream of your own consciousness, in the illusion of your own consciousness. You may remember over at the Temple of Delphi, the Oracle, where the Oracle of Delphi was located, there was a saying inscribed over the doorway, right? And it said, "Know thyself, know thyself." And it's kind of the secret of all wisdom, of all spiritual growth. What are we trying to do? When we say we're going to grow spiritually, you know, this is my year of spiritual growth. What does that even mean? What are we talking about? And I think the essence of what we're talking about is we're trying to know ourselves. We're trying to know ourselves more fully, more completely. Now we might say, well, I'm trying to know more of what God is. That is exactly correct. But we can only know more of what God is by knowing more of what God is as us and through us and in us and here and now in the present. See, we can study all kinds of teachings. We can listen to all kinds of Sunday talks. We can read all kinds of books. We can go on all kinds of retreats. And they're not bad. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but that's not knowing God. That's knowing somebody else's opinion of God. You've heard me say, and I got it from Osho, that religion is believing in someone else's experience of God. Spirituality is believing in your own experience of God. So we hear people talk about, becoming your authentic self, learning to be your authentic self. And I would say that that's kind of right there in the same idea of what is real. What is real? To say that there's an authentic self means or implies that there is a false self or an inauthentic self, if there is such a word. To say know thyself implies that we don't know ourselves. In the New Testament terms, St. Paul says, it is as if we were looking through a glass darkly. When I was a child, I spoke as a child, but now I have grown, and now I see things differently. It is as if we were looking through a glass darkly. If you've ever seen the movie The Matrix, the original movie The Matrix, and if you haven't seen it, there's parts of it that I recommend, that you see, and ask yourself, what does it mean to you? Because there's a lot of symbolism built into that into that movie. The name of the ship, the names of the characters, all of these things, they're symbols. The screenwriters put them in there as symbols. But the basic concept of the movie is that robots have taken over society. The machines have finally, artificial intelligence has finally taken over society. The machines don't need us anymore. They can repair themselves, they can build themselves, they can function quite well without us. But what they do need is they need a supply of energy. And they have determined that the human body functions very well as a AA battery, a big AA battery. So in the movie, all of the human beings are just kind of suspended in these little pods inside this mega complex, and there's cables attached. And there's tubes going in to feed the human beings, and there's tubes coming out to carry the waste away. And the only purpose that the human being has is to provide energy to power this machine society. And the way that the machines keep the human beings in this kind of state of suspended animation, if you want to call it that, is they keep the human beings asleep and in a dream, and the dreams are programmed. The machines control the dreams. See, and the human beings are living in this dream world, never to awaken. So while the human consciousness is off dreaming about whatever it is that they've been programmed to dream, the human body is producing energy that the machines are using. The two interesting things in the movie, one is that some people wake up. See, some people eventually realize that this is not real. This is a dream. Somehow they wake up. And of course, the protagonist of the movie, Keanu Reeves' character, wakes up. See? And he finds out that there's other people who have awakened, and these people are there to help him. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to help everybody else break out of the dream. Now, the other thing in the movie that kind of caught my attention is there's a character who awakens. And after he awakens, he finds out he doesn't like it. He doesn't like being awake. He doesn't like the reality And he goes back to the machines, to the avatars generated by the machines. And he says, I'll spy for you, but you have to put me back into a sleep and never let me wake up. I don't want to remember any of this. I don't ever want to wake up. I just want to stay in a beautiful dream. And of course, to me, looking at that, that's kind of each and every one of our stories. And each and every one of us, as we start to awaken to our spiritual growth. As I've mentioned before, Joel Goldsmith asks us to consider that in the book of Genesis, we're told that God put Adam meaning man of the earth, clay man, or human being, not a male or female, but a human being. God put this first human being into a deep sleep. But nowhere does it tell us that Adam ever awakened from the dream. And you and I are stuck in that dream. We're still in that dream. And what we are trying to do with our spiritual growth is we are trying to awaken from that dream. We are trying to shake off that dream. We are trying to know ourselves. That is what our spiritual growth is all about. So we have to wonder that, I'm completely fascinated by the human experience. I'm completely fascinated by the human mind. It's amazing to me that you and I, as individuals, are divided. There's part of us that knows things that the other part of us doesn't know, or the other part of us at least is not aware that we know. Dr. Holmes says if you think about it, human beings have this experience that we have a thought, and then the thought goes off somewhere, and it seems to be gone for a while, and then all of a sudden it comes back to us as a memory. You ever try to remember something and you know that you know it? Somebody's name, I know their name as well as I know my own name, but I just can't recall it. I know that phone number, but I just can't recall it. I know I did something with my keys when I came in the house, but I just can't remember. And it seems like the harder we struggle, the harder we try to force ourselves to remember, we can't. It's almost like the effort to try to remember, we're pushing it away. We're pushing it away from ourselves. And then we relax. Then we go on to something else. I can go look it up later, or I'm sure the keys will appear somewhere, and I've got another set. And we stop worrying about them. And all of a sudden, there it is. This very thing, this very bit of information that we were trying to remember, it's right there. And it's been there all the time. That's what cracks me up. It's been there all the time. It's not like somebody came and took it away from us and locked it in a box somewhere. It's been there all the time. So we as human beings, we have to at least acknowledge the fact that there's a part of us that knows things that another part of us does not know. How can that be? How can we be divided against ourselves? But nevertheless, that is our experience. Our experience is that there's a part of us that knows and a part of us that doesn't know that we know. And we can see this in our everyday life, in our everyday function. The other thing that we want to consider is that everything that we experience in the world is as we are, not as it is. Because we are looking through the filters of our mind. And we are interpreting things, and we are labeling things, and we are analyzing things, and we are dividing things, and we are separating things. And we are not seeing them as they really are. In fact, we are seeing them as we are. So it's not possible It's not possible for you and I, at this point in this stage of human development, it's not possible for us to take in, at a sensory level, it's not possible for us to take in everything that's going on around us. And we know that there are things that are going on around us that our current state of development of our senses, we can't even perceive. We don't even know how we would perceive it. You read these experiments where scientists are putting tanks of water as deep down as they can go in a mine, or down in Antarctica or other places. They're putting these tanks of water way down there with sensors on them, because they believe that right now, as you and I are sitting here, that right now there are quantum particles that are passing through us, and we can't see them or we can't feel them. There's another reality. There's another layer to what is real, and we can't see that. So we have to come to the point, then we have to say that what is important to us? What is really important to us? What is real? What is it that persists? Who are we? Why are we here? Where are we going? These are the deep questions of life. We come to realize we are not our bodies, you see. Because the body that you had as a child is long gone. It's turned to dust. It was vacuumed up off the floor. It was dusted off the windowsill. Every time you go and have your hair cut, you are not the hair that's lying on the floor. You're not that. You are not the physical. So what is real? What is real? And it comes down to what is real is our consciousness. But we have not yet learned, we have not developed the discipline to sift through the illusion, the dream of our consciousness, to find what is real. See, we're caught up in the appearances, right? And we're told, judge not by appearances. We're caught up in the appearances. We see things as we think they are, as they appear to be. And we don't take the time or make the time to come back and say, that's a dream. That's an illusion. Our minds are like the little lambs. Our consciousness is like the little sheep and the goats. And it flits here, and it flits there, and it flits everywhere. Osho says our consciousness is like a stray dog, and we follow it as it wanders. And it goes from here to there to everywhere. We have a unique capability. We have the ability to go back and visit the past in our thoughts. Now, it's good. That part of it is good, because we can go back and we can remember, and we can learn. If you're sitting down to do a task and you've already done that task, you can go back and you can say, well, what was it like the last time I did this task? What do I need? What do I need to complete this? What kind of tools do I have to have? What kind of raw materials? What steps do I need to take in order to complete this? So there's a good use for being able to reflect on the past. And then there's worry. There's regret. You go back, oh my God, why did I do that? We can go to the future. Our mind can go ahead of us, and it can anticipate. Think about that. If I said to you right now, let's all meet in Miami at noon tomorrow, you might be thinking, well, wait a second, is there enough time to get there by noon tomorrow? How long does it take to get there? What route should I take to get to Miami? And eventually I'm probably going to have to, if I'm on the East Coast, I'm going to have to get over to 95. And how do I do that? We start planning, you see. We start thinking ahead. And there's a time and a place for that. There's a purpose for that in the human experience. But while we are in the past or the future, we are not here. We are not now. We are not being mindful. So what we want to keep in mind is a couple things, right? There's a part of us that knows, and there's a part of us that doesn't know that we know. There's a part of us that is real, and there's a part of us that does not know what that reality is. There's a part of us that is stuck in the dream. There's a part of us that is constantly flitting to the past and going to the future and wandering everywhere, everywhere in the present. And if you don't believe me, just sit down and try to meditate. Just sit down and try to count from 1 to 5 without losing your count. That is how fleeting our mind is. That when we first sit down and try to meditate, do nothing, just do nothing but count. Inhale, count 1, exhale. Inhale, count 2, exhale. Go 1 to 5, then go back to 1. And try to do that without losing your count. And I think most people will find that at some point, some of us before we get to 5 for the first time, at some point, our mind is gone. It is wandering. We're thinking about what we're going to do later. We're thinking about something that happened in the past. We're listening to the sound of the air conditioner. We're listening to another person in the room breathe heavily. We are distracted. We are not. There is a part of us that knows and is real. And there is a part of us that doesn't quite know that part that knows. And that part of us is stuck in the unreal. It is stuck in the dream. It is stuck in the illusion. And like the character in the movie The Matrix, it might like being stuck in the dream. It might like being stuck in the illusion. So the first thing that we want to consider then is that the quickest way, the best way, and perhaps the only way to get to know what is real is to recognize that there are barriers, there are blocks, there are boundaries that are keeping us from knowing what is real. And all we have to do is to dissolve those boundaries. That's all. I say that like it was easy. But what I'm saying is we can't create what is real. We can't force ourselves into what is real. We can't read more and more and more about what is real. We have to allow ourselves to experience the reality by taking the power and the energy out of the dream. We have to awaken. How do you stop dreaming? We don't know. We don't know. But if you awaken, you are no longer aware of the dream. Now here's the kicker. When we awaken from our sleep, we are still dreaming. The dream seems more real to us. Everything seems more solid to us. But it is still a dream in that we are not experiencing it as it is. We are experiencing it as our consciousness filters it to us. We are not seeing things as they are. Sometimes we talk about, Buddha said, we just have to see things as they are. And right away human consciousness goes and says, but things as they are pretty terrible. Well, that's not as they are. That's as they appear to be. We're still seeing them through that perception that they are terrible, that this is awful, and we're not seeing that these are all just outpicturings of human consciousness. They're all the dream. They're all the play of life upon itself. So we recognize then that the reality exists, that which is real. What is real exists. But there's a part of us that is not in touch with that yet because that part of us is stuck in the dream. And if we want to experience things, that part is real, then what we must do is dissolve the dream into the nothingness from which it came. Now, when can we do that? See, when can we do that? Because part of the problem is that our mind is flitting into the past and into the future. When can we dissolve the dream? Here and now is the only time that we can dissolve it. Here and now. Because if we try to go to the past to dissolve it, we're stuck in the past, which is not real. It's not real. The past is gone. Right? It may never have been in the first place. It was only your perception of what was, and at any rate, it's not here. And the future is yet to come. So the only place we have to work is in our consciousness, and the only time that we have to work is now. So one of the first techniques that we can use is to be here now. Mindfulness meditation. Someone asked the Buddha, what is the meditation practice that you teach your monks? And the Buddha said, we walk when we're walking. We sit when we're sitting. We eat when we're eating. And the other monk said, well, we walk, we sit, and we eat. And Buddha said, yes. But the difference is that we are present when we walk. We are present when we eat. We are present when we sit. Who is the one who is sitting? Who is the one who is walking? Who is the one who's experiencing the dream? What is the reality when we're dreaming? It's not the dream. The dream is not reality. It's just an imagination. It's not even the dreamer. Because the dreamer doesn't even know who the dreamer is. The dreamer is identifying with the dream. What is the reality? What is the reality? What is real? And what is real is dreaming. What is happening is dreaming. That's all that's happening, is dreaming. So rather than getting tangled up in what is going on around us, rather than saying, I am angry, I am happy, I am this, I am that, I am the other thing, we can learn to be detached. What is happening right now? What is happening right now? What is this thing that we call right now? Teaching. That is all. Teaching. So we come to recognize then that this thing that we're encouraged to do, to know thyself, is the most important. That thyself, this thyself that we need to know, is already known to part of us, but unknown to part of us, and we want to dissolve the barriers. The first thing that we do is recognize that the barriers exist and recognize that they are illusions. They are dreams. Our opinions, our drama, everything that we're caught up in the world is as we perceive it, and we start to learn to detach ourselves from that. Drama is occurring. Dreaming is occurring. Anger is occurring. Politics is occurring. We don't have to get caught up in it. If we find ourselves like the sheep, if we find ourselves wandering, we reach out with that little staff and we bring ourselves back. So if we find ourselves consumed with something that happened in the past that is of no benefit, I mean, we're not going back for purpose, to learn, to remember to learn, but we're just kind of caught up in a little drama in our head about something that happened in the past. We take that little staff out and we bring ourselves back. If we find ourselves not being here in the present because our consciousness is off doing something in the future, we reach out and we bring ourselves back. We bring ourselves back. And another technique, and a powerful one, is to constantly remind ourselves, this is only a dream. None of this is real. This is only a dream. It may be a shared dream, it may be a common dream. People may be working together in a business, but that was just an idea in someone's mind. This is all a projection of consciousness. What is real? What is real? And we have to take time to make this our practice. Our practice is in being in the reality. Take time to meditate. Take time to deliberately withdraw from the distractions. Take time to just sit and be. Count from 1 to 5 as you breathe. The reason for that is you start to experience, as you're trying to count from 1 to 5, these thoughts come up and they try to take your attention away. They try to say, come, pay attention to me. And we can just learn to say, there's a thought, there's a thought. Oh, look, there's a thought. And we develop that practice, we develop that practice in quiet, in solitude, in our own homes or at the river or wherever is peaceful for us. And we start to experience a little bit, we start to experience what is real. What is real? It's not the thoughts because I don't have to attach to them. It's not the thoughts because they come and they go. It's not the body because the body is constantly changing. But it is the witness. It is the observer. Who was dreaming? Who was dreaming about being in a business with a damaged door? Was it me? Or was I the one observing the dream? So what we want to do is recognize then that we get caught up in desires. They are like sheep that lead us astray. And that doesn't mean that desires are bad and we need to fight against them because we're still stuck to them. We just need to observe them. We just need to observe them. We need to acknowledge them. You know? That's all we need to do is we need to become the witness. We need to become the observer. We don't have to follow every idea that comes into our heads. We don't have to chase them everywhere. We must recognize that we are living in a dream. We are living in our own perception of reality. And we no longer wish to live in that perception of reality. We wish to experience reality. And it's no longer good enough for us to take somebody else's word for what this reality might be. For as good as their word is, as powerful as their teachings may be, ultimately we have to experience it for ourselves. We have to experience it for ourselves. And some religions tell people, well, you know, a long time from now when you die and go to heaven. That's in the future. That's not here in the now. That's another dream. That's another perception. Can I be here now? If my mind is flitting all over the place, can I be here now? If a desire to do something comes up within me, can I just be aware? Can I just be aware that the desire has arisen? Oh, I'd like to go to Miami. Look, a desire has arisen. And what we tend to find is that when we switch that role from the actor, from believing that we are the one doing this, I am having these thoughts, to being the observer, to being in the audience. Okay? And we find that these things just dissolve. They just dissolve. See, one thing you can depend upon is that your mind's not going to stay with anything too long anyway. You know, you can't. It'll flit from here to there. It gets bored. It goes other places. So why get so excited about something that's just passing through in the first place? Why worry about it? So I think what happens is we were born into this world, as the Buddhists tell us, the game was already in play when we got here. And we are like actors on a stage. And we believe that we are that role. We're not aware of the fact that we are portraying a role in a screenplay or stage play. We are convinced we are that character. Remember the movie Nurse Betty, where the lady was convinced that she was Nurse Betty from the soap opera? We're convinced that we are what our parents told us we ought to be, what our teachers told us we ought to be, what we read in books that we ought to be, and we are trying to fulfill that role without recognizing that it is a role. And now we have to step back and say, I am not that role. I am the actor portraying that role. And we do that for a while, and we go back and we think of ourselves, well, I'm the actor and I'm portraying this role. And then eventually we have to step back and further and say, I am not the actor portraying the role. I am not the role. I am the witness. I am the observer. So try during the day to be here in the present. Try to be the observer of what is going on. Now you're still going to do your job, but you're going to say to yourself, I am the one observing Jim doing the job. I am the witness. Work is occurring. Driving is occurring. The eating is occurring. Sleeping is occurring. And I am the witness. Take time to meditate. Take time to just be with yourself. Take time to observe your thoughts when you try to be with yourself. It's almost like a game to your ego to trick you into not meditating. Very long time ago, maybe thousands of years ago, the wisdom was written down, just be still and know. Be still and know. That's really what we want to do, is to be still and to know. So you are the shepherd. No one can do this for you. No one can do this to you. You are the shepherd of your own thoughts. You are the only thinker in your universe. You are the observer of the thoughts in your universe. It is up to you. I can't do it for you. So as we began, let's close. And you are the shepherd. And you have your staff. And now, instead of seeing your sheep, you're seeing your mind wander. And you are observing that. I am the one observing the thoughts wandering. And you just very gently reach out with your staff and bring them back. And you say, be here with me now. Be here with me now. And so it is.